It was Christmas Eve. Snow fell gently across the small town, lights twinkled in every window, and families hurried home with bags of gifts. But Daniel, a single father in his 30s, sat in his car gripping the steering wheel. His son was waiting at home with hot cocoa, but Daniel's mind was heavy with guilt. He had lost his job 2 weeks ago and had no money for presents. As he drove past the grocery store, something caught his eye. A little girl, no older than 8, was digging through the trash bins outside. She wore a thin pink sweater, her hands red from the cold, her braids messy, and her eyes searching desperately for something. Daniel pulled over, heart pounding. What on earth is she doing here, all alone? He stepped out into the biting wind. The girl froze, clutching a small plastic bag. Inside were half-eaten sandwiches, a bruised apple, and a cracked toy car. She tried to hide it behind her back, but Daniel saw everything. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "where are your parents?" The girl's lips trembled. I do not have any. Not really. Something inside Daniel twisted. He had grown up in foster care himself. The sight of this child scavenging for scraps on Christmas Eve cut him deeper than words. He reached into his pocket for a few coins. "Here, maybe you can buy something warm to eat." But the girl shook her head fiercely. "No. I need this food. It is not for me." Daniel frowned. "Not for you. Then who is it for?" The girl hugged the bag tightly and whispered, "For my little brother. He has not eaten all day." Daniel felt a chill colder than the snow. A brother. Somewhere nearby, another child was hungry, maybe even freezing. He could not just walk away. "Where is your brother now?" he asked. Her eyes darted nervously toward the dark alley behind the store. "He is waiting. But, you cannot tell anyone. Promise." Daniel crouched down to meet her gaze. "Why can I not tell anyone?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Because if people find out, they will take him away from me." The weight of her words struck him like a blow. This was not just about hunger. This was about survival, secrets, and 2 children hiding from something, or someone. Before Daniel could ask another question, the girl suddenly dropped the bag and bolted into the alley. He ran after her, his breath clouding in the icy night. And what he saw waiting in the shadows stopped him cold. Daniel's boots crunched against the snow as he entered the narrow alley. The glow of the streetlights faded, replaced by shadows and silence. Then he saw him, a boy, maybe 5 years old, curled up against a stack of cardboard boxes. His tiny frame was wrapped in nothing but a torn blanket, his lips pale, and his little fingers clutching the edge of a broken teddy bear. The girl dropped to her knees beside him. "It is okay, Noah. I found some food." Daniel's heart wrenched at the sight. 2 children, alone in the freezing night, trying to survive. His instincts screamed to help, but the fear in the girl's eyes warned him to tread carefully. He knelt beside them. "Is this your brother?" She nodded, her chin quivering. "He is all I have." Daniel pulled off his scarf and gently wrapped it around the boy. "You cannot stay here. It is dangerous and too cold. You could both get sick." The girl shook her head. "If they see us, they will separate us. I cannot lose him." Daniel swallowed hard. He knew they meant the system, child services, foster homes. Memories of his own childhood came flooding back, different houses, strangers' rules, never belonging anywhere. He understood her terror too well. But he also knew the bitter cold could take their lives if something was not done tonight. "Listen," Daniel said softly, "I have a son. He is waiting at home. We do not have much, but you can come with me. Just for tonight. You will be safe and warm." The boy stirred weakly, his eyes fluttering open. The girl looked torn, glancing between her brother and Daniel. "You really mean that?" she whispered. Daniel nodded. "I promise." Her eyes glistened with hope, until a sharp sound cut through the alley. Heavy footsteps. A harsh voice. "Hey, what are you kids doing here?" Daniel turned to see a man in a dark coat stumbling toward them, the stench of alcohol trailing behind him. The girl gasped and pulled her brother closer. "It is him," she whispered in terror. "We have to hide." Daniel's muscles tensed. "Who is he?" Her voice shook. "Our stepfather. Please, do not let him take us back." The man's eyes locked on the children, rage burning in his face. "There you are. Thought you could run from me, huh?" Daniel stood, placing himself between the stranger and the children. The men sneered, fists clenching. "Back off. They are mine." The girl cried out, "No. We are not." Daniel's heart pounded. Christmas Eve had just turned into a battlefield. And in that frozen alley, with 2 terrified children clinging to him, Daniel realized he was facing a choice that could change everything. Would he risk everything to protect them, or watch them be dragged back into the darkness? The man staggered closer, his boots crunching on the ice. Daniel planted his feet firmly in front of the children, his breath steaming in the cold air. "They are scared of you," Daniel said evenly. "That should tell you everything." The men laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. "Scared? They are brats. They need discipline. Now move, or you will regret it. The girl's arms tightened around her brother. Please, she whispered to Daniel. Do not let him take us. Daniel's chest ached. He had promised his son a quiet Christmas Eve at home, but destiny had placed two terrified children in his path. And he knew, if he let them go with this man, he might never forgive himself. I will not let you hurt them, Daniel said firmly. The man's face twisted with rage. He lunged forward, shoving Daniel hard against the wall. Pain shot through Daniel's back, but he held his ground. Stay behind me. Daniel barked at the children. The man raised his fist, but before he could strike, Noah let out a weak cry. The sound pierced the night, fragile and heartbreaking. The man froze for a moment, glaring at the boy. You little burden, he spat. Something inside Daniel snapped. Memories of his own childhood, the cruel foster parent who had called him worthless, the nights he cried himself to sleep, rushed back. He would not let history repeat itself. Enough. Daniel roared, shoving the men back. You do not deserve to call yourself their family. The man stumbled but steadied himself, his eyes narrowing. Fine. If you want them so badly, then you take care of their mess. But you will not last. Nobody ever does. He turned and stormed off into the night, his curses echoing in the empty alley. For a moment, silence fell. Daniel's heart pounded, adrenaline flooding his veins. The girl's hands shook as she clutched her brother. You really protected us, she whispered. Daniel knelt down, his voice softening. No child deserves to be treated that way. You are safe now. I promise. The girl's tears froze against her cheeks, but there was a faint light in her eyes, a glimmer of trust. Come on, Daniel said, helping them up. Let me take you home. My son will be happy to meet you. They walked through the snow, Daniel carrying Noah in his arms while the girl trailed close, still glancing over her shoulder. When they reached Daniel's small apartment, his son, Ben, ran to the door. Dad. You are late, his words stopped as he saw the strangers. Daniel placed Noah gently on the couch. Ben, this is Noah and his sister. They need our help tonight. Ben's eyes widened. Then he dashed to his room and returned with his only unopened Christmas gift, a board game he had begged for. He placed it beside Noah. It is okay. You can have this. We can play together. The girl gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. No one had ever given them a gift before. But just as warmth began to fill the room, a harsh knock rattled the door. Daniel stiffened. A voice barked from the hallway, open up. This is child services. We need to talk about the children. The girl's face drained of color. She grabbed her brother's hand, trembling. You promised, she whispered. You promised they would not take him away from me. Daniel stood frozen, torn between the truth and the trust he had just earned. If he opened that door, everything could change in an instant. Daniel's heart raced as the pounding on the door grew louder. His mind spun. If he opened it, the children could be taken away. But if he ignored it, things might get worse. He turned to the girl, who was clutching her brother's hand as if her life depended on it. I promised you, Daniel said softly. And I am not breaking that promise. He opened the door slowly. A woman stood there, mid-40s, wearing a thick coat, her badge hanging around her neck. Behind her was a younger man holding a clipboard. Their faces were serious, but not unkind. We received a report about 2 minors in danger, the woman said. Are they here? The girl stepped back, her eyes wide with fear. Noah whimpered against Daniel's side. Daniel squared his shoulders. Yes, they are here. But before you say anything, you need to understand, these children are not a case number. They are survivors. And tonight, they need compassion more than paperwork. The social worker studied him, then looked past his shoulder at the children. Her gaze softened. We know who their stepfather is. He has a history with us. That is why we came. The girl's breath caught. So, you are not here to take us away. The woman knelt down to the children's level. No, sweetheart. We are here to make sure you are safe. Together. Tears streamed down the girl's face. She clung to Daniel's arm. Please, can we stay with him? Just tonight. The room fell silent. Daniel's son, Ben, walked forward, holding the board game. They can share Christmas with us. Right, Dad. Daniel's throat tightened. He looked at the social worker, his voice steady. I may not have much. But I know what it feels like to grow up alone. If you will allow it, let them stay. At least for now. The woman exchanged a glance with her colleague, then nodded. Temporary placement, until we sort things out. But yes, they can stay. The girl let out a sob of relief, collapsing into Daniel's embrace. Noah's tiny fingers clutched at his sweater. For the first time that night, Daniel felt the weight on his chest lift. Later, as the 4 of them sat around the small table, cups of cocoa steaming, laughter breaking through the cold silence of fear, Daniel realized something profound. He had been worried about not being able to give his son gifts. But the greatest gift of all was sitting right in front of them, family, born not of blood, but of love and choice. The girl looked up, her eyes shining. This is the best Christmas I have ever had. Daniel smiled, his voice thick with emotion. Me too. And as the snow fell outside, covering the world in a blanket of white, Daniel knew this night had changed everything. Christmas was never about the presents under the tree. It was about the people around the table, the promises kept, and the courage to love when it mattered most.